Hey everyone, welcome to Neighbor Science, the only podcast about political economy and anime.
As far as we know.
The only one. I'm certain of it.
Really?
It's the only one.
And
in
I
the
suppose if another one manages to start up, then we will just sabotage them or buy them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they only got
precious Patreon dollars.
Even if we don't do that, they only got about 20 years anyway. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
We'll still be the first one.
Yes.
Even if we're not the only one.
Yes. Preeminence.
So, yeah, I am Ryan Mula.
And I'm Christopher Mula.
And today we're talking about Maersk. Maersk.
A name with two whole vowels in a row, and you don't use a damn single one of them.
Yeah, apparently, I don't really get the running joke of the Danish language being like all fucked up.
Oh, yeah. So
the video you showed me was very funny.
So I knew these two Norwegian girls in grad school, anyway, so that was a long story that I didn't want to tell, but like they confirmed what I had heard, which is that Scandinavians and Germans and everybody else, probably even the Dutch, make fun of the Danish for having like this fucking monstrous, unintelligible mumble language that nobody can fucking figure out.
It's the mumble rap of languages.
Yeah. Like I was watching this German. It's Easy German on YouTube. And they do like these really interesting, useful like German tutorials and shit where they like go around a city in Germany or something, and they kind of just have conversations, but they subtitle everything and da. But they were like, so they did an episode in Denmark with, I think it was a girl who was German but had lived in Denmark for several years at that point. And they're like, so as a German speaker, you know, like, has it been challenging, like, learning and using Danish? And she just kind of laughed. She's like, yeah, it's really different here. And they're like, okay, so, like, the capital of Denmark is spelled something like Odense. And the German host of the show, she's like, so, you know, of course, in German, we would say Odense. You know, and how would you say that in Danish? And the girl's like, it's kind of like onze, or like uns. And she's like, so basically, you don't pronounce any of the word.
So it's kind of like how French is spelled, but
yeah,
that's how it's pronounced.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
It's pretty good. Yeah, so I'm gonna post that sketch in the show description because it's too funny.
It's so fucking funny.
Yeah, it's this thing about like
you'll watch it more than once, I promise you.
Yeah, this guy like going into a shop and like trying to ask for something at a hardware store, and
please
neither of
help
them know what they're
Our language
talking about.
is collapsing.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah, today we're talking about Maersk. That's just something.
Yeah,
that's pronounced. I guess
Maersk or Maersk.
Maersk.
Yeah. Elon Musk,
which is currently the world's largest shipping company. They're actually in several industries, cargo shipping itself, freight forwarding, training. I didn't see if they have like port services or anything like that.
Oh yeah, port services is like the sex trade.
Yeah.
You get in a port and that's what you do. You know, you pay people for sex because you haven't done that in a while.
You might be thinking of the red light district. Actually,
oh yeah.
Easy mix up to make. Yeah.
Okay. You know, we don't have to talk about that. So they have freight forwarding. They have actual shipping.
Yeah, they do lots of stuff.
Training.
So
you said.
Let's start with how the hell does shipping actually work?
Oh yeah, how does it work?
Shipping is like 90% of the stuff moving around industry in the world, and I think most of us have no earthly idea how it works at all. Well,
I have some theories.
Yeah,
but it kind of depends on whether you believe the Earth is flat or not.
Right. So most of us know the basics of it. You put stuff on a boat, and then the boat goes to a place, and then you take the stuff off the boat.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. So we can
pretty
go ahead
simple.
And move on.
We could let's just close the episode right there. Yeah.
So yeah, Maersk dominates that. Just taking stuff off the boat and putting it, in a different place.
Sounds like a lot of work.
So the first step to shipping is having a ship. That's easily the first step, I think. Some would say that maybe there's some other ones that come before that, but
right. I mean, we can just completely ignore the fact that like massive amounts of labor and resource extraction and resource processing and fabrication lead to like the existence of a ship,
right?
You know, and all the technical expertise, because like we're just assuming that, right? Like we don't have to pay those people, because once the ship's there, that's when business really
I mean, if you're
starts.
really thinking about it like a priori, which is the best kind of reasoning, of course, you don't want to look at reality.
That's why there's an A in front of it,
stuff.
because it's alpha, which is the best.
Right. Yeah. So a priori, you know, you would think that you would have to have a boat first.
Right.
So I think that's evidence enough. That
you can't have an egg without a chicken, obviously.
Well...
Wait,
I mean, I think you can have an egg with like a
don't
dinosaur.
give me that.
Yeah. So the egg in this story is a ship. So shipbuilding is a really large industry, and I was actually reading about this right before I had to leave suddenly, because I didn't realize what time it was. But yeah, so I only got to look at one country. So in the country that makes the ships for Maersk currently, South Korea. They have 3 very large shipbuilding businesses, at least 2 of which you've heard of. The one that Maersk uses is called Daewoo, and they make the Triple E class ships, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Yeah, and the other 2 are Hyundai and Samsung. So,
but those are small brand names that you probably haven't heard of. They might have a few brands that you interacted with, but they're pretty obscure.
Yeah, I've heard of like Galaxy S, but Galaxy ship? What the hell?
What? That's some kind of weird Tim Allen shit.
Yeah. What does Hyundai make again? Motorcycles or something?
Something like that. It's like like scooters. Or
they
something.
they make that great car, the Tiburon. Yeah, they make that one. I think they make the Veloster. Yeah.
Veloster. I hardly knew her. God damn it.
So that's all we really have for the section of having a ship. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yep. So it goes on top of the water usually.
Shipping.
Sometimes when it goes under the water, then that's a bad situation.
Yeah. I do know they build them in dry docks, which I think are just big, like, kind of like car lifts, but for boats.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Have you ever
I think
seen
car
that
lifts
shit?
came first, and then they invented dry docks later, but I might be wrong about that.
I actually don't know. I feel like dry docks might have been, because cars, as we know them,
were not invented until 200 BC.
Right.
Which was long after the ship.
But
I think they built ships in the water before.
Yeah. So I feel like, and I might be wrong, but one of the Phoenician, maybe even Carthage.
They had car lifts?
They had, car lifts. Yeah. But no, they had some kind of dry dock or something similar, because that was one of their competitive advantages.
Okay.
Was that they would be able to just be like, oh yeah, bring it in, just like, and then like they drain all the water out or whatever it was they did. But that could be me just like talking out my ass because I read too much of like Ripley's Believe It or Not or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess the other alternative is you just build it on regular dry land and like roll it in with like logs or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, rolling with logs was very common for a lot of people. You know, the Vikings, of course.
Or you hitch it up to your trailer on your F-150 and you just pull it down to the boat launch.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You just tighten those nuts with your hands.
Right.
You know, that's how I do it.
Yeah,
but,
same here.
But I mean, since we're recording this live, we would love for you to just call in and correct us if you know better.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this right now, go ahead and give us a call.
Yeah, it's 1-800-555-5555.
Now, that is not the number, but I don't actually have the number on me, so I'll have to get back to you about that. So I'll go ahead and put that number in the show notes, and then when you listen to the episode, just give that number a call and correct us, and you'll be in the episode. You'll be a guest on the show.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think he's actually serious about that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, cool.
So after you have your boat, you put it in a port, and people have to get stuff onto your boat.
I feel like we're writing a WikiHow article.
Yeah.
After you have your boat, and there's like a sort of washed out looking smiley person who's just got a boat.
I gotta find one of those funny WikiHow pictures and put that
That's
as the
gonna
cover.
be it. Yes.
Okay.
WikiHow to Maersk.
Yeah. So yeah, once the boat is sitting there ready for stuff to be put on it, people need to know how to do that.
Right.
If you had to ship
Harder
a bunch
than
of
you think.
If you had to ship a bunch of pallets of iPhones to Nairobi, I think it's safe to say you probably wouldn't have any idea how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't know where Nairobi is. And I mean that, like, logistically and in terms of navigation. Like, we can look at a map and be like, well, there's Nairobi, you fucking idiot. But, like, you try to get there from anywhere else in the world, and most people will die.
What ports service Nairobi?
Right. Like, well, how do I get there? How do
Where
I get
is a
permission?
port?
Yeah, exactly.
Have any of you been to a port? I haven't.
Right. And
actually, I guess I sort of have. I've been next to a port in Wilmington. The one featured in the movie Iron Man 3, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. In the last scene of the movie. Yeah.
You can spoil it for me,
yeah,
but I don't know about our listeners.
Well, the spoiler is there's part of the movie in a port.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's
fuck. That ruins everything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it pretty much does tell you the whole story of the movie. Yeah, they do a lot of filming in Wilmington. There used to be a bigger movie industry there, but the good old Republican governor decided to end the film industry subsidies so he could keep the liberal voters out.
It's funny how they'll take money away from things that would normally make money, and yet they're the business party, and you just gotta wonder why.
Yeah, I think it's so they can cement their power.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the thing.
Yeah.
But, what do I know?
What do we know?
So
if getting to Nairobi is a difficult
even if you
thing.
know where a port is,
Right.
even if you've been to one, you probably still wouldn't know how to fill out like a bill of lading or a customs declaration or any of that shit.
Exactly.
You wouldn't know like how to actually take the stuff there, who you needed to talk to.
Yep.
So that's where freight forwarding comes in, and that is a whole industry of getting stuff from point A to point B, which is a port.
Right.
And like setting up all the documentation that you need to get your thing to the other place.
And this is actually one of the interesting things about shipping is that it really clarifies, I like to say this a lot, I guess, but like it clarifies the like necessity of the relationship between the business and the state.
Yeah.
Is that documentation is all very legalistic, and yeah, a lot of it is accounting and inventory.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is also like the kind of duplicate, triplicate bullshit that you go through with a bureaucracy,
right? Like
a state bureaucracy.
A lot of regulatory stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so it's so funny, again, with like Republicans and shit, they're like, blah, 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 job creators. And you're like, who's a big job creator? The fucking government. Because they're like, somebody has to process these stacks and stacks and stacks of paper or digital files or whatever the fuck, right? Because if they don't, then we won't have some idea of certainty that there's not like endangered fucking animals in this pallet on this ship, Yeah. And that's
non-endangered animals only.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We only want the animals that we are free to murder on a daily basis. Right.
Deer, pigeons.
Right. And which won't incur
probably
like
some other ones.
Reactive like a retaliatory war with some ally or something.
Right.
That's really all it comes down to.
No nukes going through the
Right, exactly.
port.
Yeah. Unless we want them.
Yeah, and I wrote this section thinking that freight forwarding was only getting stuff to the port and then filling out the stuff to go to the destination. But I think it also includes, I mean, the name doesn't suggest this unless you take forwarding in a different sense, but like it also includes, I think, taking stuff from the ship to its final destination. Because
kind of like when you're outside of the harbor and you need to get it in.
On the to side. They're on the from side as well as on the to side.
Right.
Because I was reading about how cargo ships are unloaded and the containers get unloaded by a crane and put on a truck, and then the truck goes to a distribution center run by a freight forwarding company.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then they take it to where it needs to go.
And so if I'm understanding this correctly, is this similar to the apparent truth that I semi-learned from the show on Netflix called Cathedral of the Sea, where they explain in episode 2 that Barcelona, having no natural harbor, relies on a bunch of small boats to carry shit from the ship to the shore and from the shore to the ship? Is that kind of what freight forwarding also involves? Do we know that?
I don't know that for sure, but I know that practice is called transshipment.
Transshipment. That's the fucking term. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically taking stuff off of a big boat and putting it onto a smaller boat.
Yeah. And vice versa.
So I didn't know that about Spain. That's interesting.
I think it was just Barcelona.
Oh, just Barcelona.
Based on
Okay.
what I heard in this, what I saw in the series.
Okay.
You know,
Well, they have like a bunch of land around them. Do they know about that?
well, you know, I don't want to have to like write them a whole letter.
Yeah, my Spanish isn't very
Barcelonian,
good. So, yeah.
Barcelonian.
Yeah, so basically freight forwarding is being plugged into the shipping network and understanding how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
but not like us. Like real professionals.
Yeah. And that kind of highlights another aspect of political economy that's really underemphasized in, I mean, really any economics education, which is like a lot of business is just knowing the right people.
That is correct.
Yeah. It's not all just commodity production.
Yep.
And
therein lies class ossification.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you couldn't I don't think you could just go to a school to learn freight forwarding.
I feel like you kind of could.
I mean, if you can, it's probably run by Maersk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would
they're
probably
not going to
be
teach you enough to take down their own business.
Right, and it would probably be. I'm sure that we could find some kind of like, you know, fucking, you know, Swedish School of Freight Forwarding, Institute of Technology of the Royal Oil Supply, blah blah. You know, like, yeah. And then you'd go but like only Swedish people fucking go there or something, you know. Yeah.
They're like bork, bork, bork.
Bork, 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 bork. And you're like, is that participles or is that a whole sentence? It's just how does that work?
So you have to be plugged into the shipping network to know this. And yeah, like Chris said, it's very class oriented. You have to be kind of part of that class. But freight forwarding is kind of a relatively new industry. You know, for as long as shipping has been around, freight forwarding has not been around that long. Probably because I would guess the reason for that is the main users of shipping back in the day would be states, and they just have people that already know how to use the shipping network because they basically built it themselves. Right.
Yeah, that was definitely true of. At least unofficially true of like a lot of, I think we were talking about like riffing on like privateers earlier, where it was like, oh, that's just like fucking state piracy. That's just cops, you know?
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of knowledge base and practice and, you know, you get a bunch of people who can sail and they sail because, you know, maybe they start off in small boats and small ships and stuff, but like, you know, or they get pressed and forced to do shit, whatever the fuck. But yeah, it's manned by a bunch of fucking like royal geeks, you know, who are associated with the gentry or the aristocracy, and often are part of those classes. You know?
Right. I mean, you could just look at the founders of Maersk, two guys named Mueller. That was to explain the joke that we made at the begining.
Yes.
That's what the
We're
joke
all
is.
Muellers now.
Yeah, every single person in Denmark's last name is Mueller.
Yeah.
So they basically just pass the business down to their kids.
Yeah.
So
which is unsurprising.
Right. So that's who controls shipping, is the child of the person who is a shipping magnate in, you know, the 20th century.
Yep.
So yeah, freight forwarding, new industry. The first freight forwarding business was called Thomas Meadows and Company Limited of London, England, and was established in 1836. Yeah, the company names back in the day were dog shit, weren't they?
Yeah,
just awful.
They're like, well, I mean, we have to include the location. We have to include our middle names. You know, obviously, you know, the place where we were born, the kind of hats we like to wear. You know, otherwise people will never recognize us.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a company that's headquartered on Route 28 near my house called Warroware.
Oh, fuck.
Warroware. Isn't that cool? It's in the same building as...
It's not the word I would use. But
Genesis, which is spelled like Gene Sis.
Yep. Which
also is evocative of the company from Terminator.
Yes. I actually applied to a job at Genesis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the recruiter was like, he corresponded with me once, and then I never heard from him again. It was like very unprofessional.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys fucking suck. Like, I get that you're in some kind of tech or something, but like, you know, fucking tell people when you don't want to talk to them anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. So the earliest freight forwarding companies mainly just contracted other, individuals or companies to move goods to a local port. And then they had like just an advisory role in the documentation of shipments, so they weren't like filling stuff out for you.
Right. They just stood there.
Yeah,
and watched
they told
do
you
it.
how to fill it out.
Right.
They didn't.
Like,
Really...
you missed an I.
Yeah.
You missed a dot.
Yeah.
You're using a blue pen. You should be using a black pen.
Yeah. So once powered ships and railroads became common and reliable, they always say steamships, but it's like nobody calls them steamships anymore. They're powered ships.
Like literally like nuclear power. Unless I'm extremely mistaken, like doesn't nuclear power itself still produce fucking steam?
Yeah.
Yeah. To move the roads, but we don't call it fucking steam power.
Right.
Right. That's like coal steam power.
Yeah.
Is steam power.
Right.
Yeah. Now it's like, no, it's nuclear or it's fossil fuel or something like that.
And like the type of ship that they are, like just because they're now using diesel.
Yeah.
It's not like that makes
Right.
them a different class of ships than steam ships. So it's just like, powered ships. Once powered ships and railroads became common and reliable, there's a lot more demand for international shipping because you could just sail straight through the fucking ocean instead of having to follow ocean currents and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So freight forwarding evolved into like more of a business to business, B2B industry, managing shipments between different countries.
Right.
And so now today, they're hooked into all these like online systems that they literally just like fill out all your shit for you. You tell them what your goods are, tell them the stuff that you need to send and where. And
It's not a bad life.
yeah,
If you can get it.
some freight forwarding businesses, like some of the smaller ones, will specialize in like a specific like couple routes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So
like
they
if you
get
go on the Wikipedia article
really,
for freight
really
forwarding,
good
it's
at
like
that.
it's like this business in China that specializes in shipping to Russia and Kazakhstan.
Oh.
So, and it's just like a little storefront. So
Nice.
yeah, it's cute in like a dingy way.
Right. Dingy little global shipping place.
Yeah.
I feel like that's got to be in One Piece at some point, something like that.
Maybe.
It's been so long since I saw the show, but it was great. Yeah.
So Maersk is in the freight forwarding business. It's not the largest freight forwarder, but it's in the like top 20.
Right. It's
or
up
so.
there.
Yeah, I
It has
think
clout.
I think the top one is like some French company or something. Anyway,
French Maersk.
so another thing to know about modern shipping. First of all, it operates on containerization, which we've all seen shipping containers before.
Yep.
Most likely in the form of some upper middle class asshole trying to live in one for no reason at all.
Right.
Which does not work.
Fucking lark. Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're a homeless person, and then it probably works okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta get it right.
If you have money to buy a house, don't buy a shipping container. Yeah. It doesn't work very well. But
it's just rich people trying to get laid, basically.
But containerization is kind of new. I don't know where I put this in the notes, but the first container ship actually did not sail until like 1950.
Yeah. Was it you that I was talking to about containerization, how that got kicked off?
Possibly. I don't know.
So if we could like break off into like my very little knowledge of this, but which
Sure.
is I think key. So I was listening to this audiobook a little while back called The Death and Life of the Great Lakes, something like that. And it's actually pretty dismal because it's about like the interaction of human settlement and business, like quote unquote free market enterprise and like unregulated industry and the Great Lakes ecosystem like generally.
Okay.
And how whether through people just being ignorant and dumb and just trying to clear farmland or whatever, or trying to fish, and also like the abuses of major industry and industrial players in that area, we've basically completely destroyed the Great Lakes ecosystem like 3 or 4 times in a row. And it's really sad and kind of horrific to understand how that all happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But along the way in this audiobook, they explained that containerized shipping became a factor in this because, of course, the Great Lakes is this vast system of navigable water to major parts of the U.S. and Canada, which has access to the Atlantic through the St. Lawrence Seaway, and so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they managed to create like more access through some kind of engineering and canals and locks and stuff, which was a big part of like how they fucked it all up.
I see.
Because they didn't understand that they were accidentally introducing species across the waters, shit like that. And so like that's actually half of the ecological destruction that's been happening for the last like century or two, is that it's what they call, like invasive species basically happens.
Yeah.
And it kept happening, and they were like, well, maybe if we do this, and then they'd do something, it would kind of work, and then something else would happen, and it was just this cascade effect. And so it's just this awful, awful thing.
I think they just need to introduce as many invasive species as possible, and then they'll just compete with each other.
Capitalism.
Yeah, exactly.
Invasive species capitalism. And then
enviro-capitalism.
Right. We just end up with like just like a gigantic like weird alien like lake worm that just eats everything organic.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I would fucking pay
badass
to
as
see
hell.
that. Throw our politicians in there. But,
sounds delicious, actually.
Right. Glows in the dark and everything.
Yeah.
Only responds to fervent prayer.
Yeah, I heard if you eat too many of those things, then your skin glows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but who wouldn't want that when you're going to like a sex party?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're trying to be stealthy, like if you're in the like assassination industry or something like that, you wouldn't want your skin to glow. But otherwise,
you only get murdered in broad daylight from now on.
Yeah, strictly vegetarian diet for those guys.
Yeah. But the containerized shipping, they talked about how some guy I think in that area, actually in the Midwest, the Great Lakes area, he was a truck driver, trucker, and went past these docks like day in, day out, or like on regular trips, and would see the old way of packing a ship, which was kind of just like the way you pack your suitcase, where you're like, I'm going to throw it all in there, and then, that doesn't quite fit, I'll take them all out again, or like put a few more in, and just kind of sort of
yeah, it would take like months to load a ship.
It would take months to load a ship, and they said that sometimes the packing the ship on the departure end would actually take longer than the voyage of the ship itself, and it was bonkers. And so
that's when ships were hella slow.
Yeah. So it was like fucking. It would take maybe a year sometimes, apparently. And this guy's just driving his truck past this thing every fucking day or every few days, and watching this. And he's like, "Wow, that looks like a lot of work. What a pain in the ass." And then like 20 years later, he goes, "Wait a minute, I got this semi truck." And it has this uniform space that I ship all the fucking time. What if we came up with... And so
what
he
if
basically
we put trucks on the ship?
Basically, yeah, he came up with like, what if we took the container part of the truck and just did that? And so it was all pre-packed at the distribution
just the container
nodes.
part. That makes sense.
Yeah. You take
then
the wheels off.
Then you would have to have a bunch of engines on there.
Exactly. You take the wheels off, and you take the cabin off, and then
the wheels too.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And then just.
Well,
then eventually
this
you just
guy's
have a
way
container.
ahead of me, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, and you have to get the driver out too, because that would be kind of a mess.
Yeah, you would have to take a lot of people with you.
Right.
Those 20,000 container ships, you'd have 20,000 drivers.
Right.
Can you imagine that? Paying their salary while the ship is going to and from China?
Right.
That's crazy, dude.
Insane.
Yeah. Really smart to take those guys off of the ship.
Yeah. Yeah. And all those wheels,
Yeah, so I don't know where the part that... Oh, yeah, Sealand. Yeah, Sealand is the company that operated the first container ship.
Okay.
And that company existed until 1999.
Damn.
When it was acquired by Maersk.
It's a good run.
Yeah.
A good run.
Yeah. Okay, so back down to what we were talking about. Yeah, so the thing with containerization is like, yeah, it just makes everything easier to manage.
Yeah.
That's like a huge part of like any process of state building is...
Yep.
I think I've probably mentioned this.
Yeah,
a couple times now. Yeah, standardization. Like, yeah, sometimes I kind of think that like money is a standardization of the process of like transferring political power and legitimacy.
Yeah. It's like like fractional containers.
Yeah.
I think I actually made a reference to containers as an analogy to money units, like currency units once, but whoever I was talking to was like, "That's great, man," and they got another beer, I was like, "Oh shit, it's midnight,"
Another thing that people don't think about that I think was invented in the 19th century when trains and powered ships became more common, which is time zones.
Oh,
that did not exist until very recently.
Yeah,
because before there was just like a local time for like a city.
Did you know that there was actually popular resistance to the imposition of time zones?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So like because people were like, no, that's not real. Yeah, they were literally just like, that's not real. They're like, yeah, you're telling me that it's 7 o'clock now. Well, according to our fucking clocks, which we based on the fucking sun, it's 6:37.
Yeah.
Right. And then
this
the
clock
government's like,
has been here for 2,000 years, you motherfucker.
Yeah, right.
You uppity motherfuckers.
Exactly. And so there were fucking protests and resistance and all this shit. People would not use the time zones and they would not standardize. And I think it took government fucking intervention.
I'm imagining someone in the street being like, "Excuse me, sir, do you have the time?" And he tells them like the time zone time, and everyone's like, "Fucking bootlicker!
Get the fuck out of here!
Shut the fuck up! It's 6:36, you asshole!"
Right. You kick somebody to death in the gutter for fucking saying it's a different time. You know?
Fucking ring kissing little punk.
Right. Suddenly everybody's shitting on the company clock, you know?
Yeah.
The standardized company clock.
So with the advent of containerization, ships transform from having like cargo holds to just being like a flatbed with a bunch of boxes on top of it.
Yeah.
And
that is an interesting transformation.
Yeah.
What do they put in the hold now? Like a bunch of cotton swabs, or like
probably like fuel and shit.
I
wonder how much fuel one of these boats has. I didn't.
Yeah,
that's not something I looked up. I thought about it earlier, but I was just like, I should look at other stuff instead, or play this video game.
Or maybe it's like 3,000 Phoenician rowers.
Yeah, just in case.
Just in case.
So with the advent of containerization, there was two different types of shipping. Excuse me. So in modern shipping, you can have either full container load or less than container load. So if you're shipping a ton of stuff, most of the stuff can be put in their own containers. You don't have to share them with other people. But if you're not shipping a whole lot, which like I just received a box of tea that I shipped from China.
Yeah.
It took like 2 months exactly, actually.
That's not bad.
Pretty long.
From
It was much longer than I expected. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in this day.
Well, the last couple of orders I got from that site, I didn't realize that I was picking like air shipping, which was only like it's only like $5 more.
Right, because of like the sort of
out of like a $35 shipping charge already. So it's like, well, what's an extra $5?
Yeah, you know.
So I picked surface shipping this time, and it took 2 months, and I was like, where the fuck is my tea? Damn.
Because they had to walk up through Russia and then over.
Right. Over the
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would have been a less than container load.
Right.
Shipment, because it's just my box. Right. So it's in a container with a bunch of other boxes.
I'm just imagining just your tiny box of tea in the corner of this container, and there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And it's just another $5, you know. They're like, yeah, this one, dong, dong, dong.
I'm so baller I get FCL shipping for my 2-pound box of tea.
Right. VIP container.
Those things hold like 3 tons.
Right.
Yeah. So if you ship a container with only your stuff, it's FCL, and that's fairly easy to manage. You know, one container is going to one place. But if you ship an LCL container of stuff, then that involves tracking all of the goods that are inside of it. Right. Which I think that's a responsibility that falls on port or on freight forwarders.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, not
because they have to then break it up and
ship
figure it out.
Only has to care about
actually
getting the containers on and off the ship and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, FCL is the norm for most shipments today, because most shipments are by large businesses, of course. But since containerization didn't exist prior to 1950, LCL is kind of just how shipping used to work.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You just stuff all your shit in there with everybody else's shit.
But it's still kind of easier because they're still separated into discrete packages. So, like, even if you have a whole boatload of LCL shipments, you still can like break it down into smaller
like discrete packages. Units. Yeah, exactly.
And that's easier to manage too.
Yeah.
But I think also like most shipping containers are not like stuffed to the rafters with stuff.
Yeah, there's probably some kind of, you know, standardization, some regulation about like, well, we only fill it so high or with such and such levels of kind of wonder about that. I'm sure they put the heaviest shit on the bottom. Like,
well, and plus
supposed
shipping
to,
is just so cheap that
Yeah.
There's no reason to like stuff it that high, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you're just getting a few extra things out of it, then what does it matter?
You think that like
There's gonna be another boat.
Do you think that like these container guys? I mean, they're using cranes and shit, obviously. But I was just thinking about how hilarious it'd be if they also complain about like stuffing a container full of like just books. You know, the way we fucking bitch about like when we have to ship our books.
The crane arm sinks a little bit.
He's like, fucking everybody with their books, you know. And this other one's full of feathers and dreams, you know.
Yeah, I prefer that one.
Yeah.
So another section that I did not get to finish, the actual travel part. So once stuff is on the boat, which I think we got to that part of the trip.
We fleshed that
we pretty
out.
much did.
Yeah.
Once stuff is on the boat, crane takes it on there, puts it on there, and the boat gets tugged out. The ocean is wide open, but shippers create lanes where they regularly travel. So they have like a set route that they tend to go to.
Be a fucking bitch painting the lanes though.
Yeah. Yeah, and maintaining all those signs and all the gantries that go over it, so you know which highway you're on and stuff.
Right, and the turnoffs and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, so where were we? Yeah, powered ships and stuff. Shipping lanes.
Too fast for the cops.
Yeah, so prior to
that.
powered ships,
Shipping lanes.
when all the boats were on sails and Phoenician rowers, because as we know, all rowers in the world were Phoenician. They had the best ones.
Right. The best.
Yeah. So shipping lanes were, they could be like long and winding because they had to follow certain winds and ocean currents, and they couldn't just plod right through the middle of the Atlantic Ocean willy nilly.
Pretty prohibitively difficult.
It'd be kind of suicidal.
A little bit
even.
Yeah.
But now that we have powered ships, you can just turn your engine up and just go in a straight line.
Yeah.
And so if you look at a map of shipping routes around the world, they're pretty much all just straight lines or slightly curved lines.
Yep.
Yeah. So the travel part currently in this era of essentially free energy spewing out of the ground constantly.
Quote unquote.
Travel's very
free.
easy. You just go in a straight line. So there's not much to that.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I think operating a cargo shipping route is mainly having a boat part. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah.
So contrary to what we usually say about capital being all about finance and power and stuff,
right.
If you're moving goods around the world, you actually do need to have a boat to do that. That's an important part, and that's probably the main thing for that type of company.
That said, we may get to the finance part, which is crucial based on some of the stuff that I was looking at, but we can move forward with our...
Yeah, the last step here.
Yeah.
Which is arriving at the port. So once a container ship arrives at port, it pulls up to a quay, which I think...
A quay?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, quay? I like quay better. It sounds kind of
quay.
cool.
It's kind of like when you spell jail, Gaol.
It's kind of like when you're a stupid ass in Spanish 1.
Right.
And you're like, K? No, that's quay, man.
Yeah, that's quay.
Quay.
Yeah.
Get it? It's a funny joke that the teacher's
Queso
never heard
Doritos.
before in her whole entire life. So it pulls up to a dock.
Which is pronounced dock.
Dick.
Deek. Well, we are Danish now, so
Yeah.
Dirk.
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 Dirk. Dirk.
You have to swallow both the vowel and the consonants.
That's the new non-racist version of Durka. You remember that joke in the 2000s?
God.
Durka Durka?
Yes.
Yeah, so Dirk
Dirk.
means you're pulling up to the dock.
Yep.
That's what you say when you pull up in your Maersk Triple E class.
That's right.
You're like, Dirk, Dirk.
Yeah. God, the Danish are gonna love us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't be racist to them.
Exactly, and
'cause
they're
they're
probably
white.
used to it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure they take it on the chin.
All
They're
the
probably
time.
okay with it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why I said the containers. That's pretty stupid. Pretty loaded when I wrote these notes, I gotta say.
Loaded like a container ship.
Yes, I was loaded like a container ship when I wrote these notes.
Were you fully loaded?
Let's say
or
an
only
FCL
less
load.
Than fully loaded. Exactly.
An FCL load.
Yeah. This
in
is
my
now
brain.
slang for dorks.
Yeah.
Whether you were fully or less than fully loaded.
So the ships may sit at the dock to be inspected by... Oh, no, it was containers, actually. So I'm making fun of myself for no reason. Yeah, the containers...
Just merciless.
The ships...
Merciless.
Yeah.
Okay.
God damn it.
Sorry.
So, yeah, the ship can actually sit in port. This isn't another part, but I'm just going to say now.
Yeah, just keep going.
The ship can actually sit in port for like hours or days because there's like a lot of congestion there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically pulled up by a tug, and then a crane unloads the containers, and those containers either go directly onto a flatbed truck.
Right.
They have these cool trucks that have like these little like arms to keep the containers from sliding off, and
It's pretty cool.
yeah, or they just put them in stacks like on the dock somewhere. Or they just take them to another ship doing transshipment stuff. But the trucks then, like we said earlier, take the cargo to a freight forwarder's distribution center, or somewhere else. And so,
like the black market.
yeah. Or sometimes they just dump them in the ocean.
Yeah, just
you know, like, oh, thanks for all the cargo.
Right, yeah, this is boring.
Yeah,
I don't want to do this anymore.
yeah. So because of the massive volume of cargo that's shipped around the world today, mostly because of containerization and globalization, yeah, there's all this heavy congestion which causes delays.
Right.
So the delays result in ships sitting at anchor, waiting for an open berth to unload their shit.
Yep.
And so that can have a really strong effect because the way businesses operate today, they use a system called just-in-time for both production and
just-in-time.
Yeah, and like inventory systems. Yep. Like I don't remember what they call it for. I guess shipping. They call it just-in-time shipping. Yeah, so that basically means that businesses keep like minimal inventory, and they produce and ship on demand rather than like in anticipation of demand. So instead of having big warehouses full of stuff, they have big warehouses where stuff is just like constantly being pushed through.
Right.
I guess not as big warehouses where stuff is just being pushed through. But so that means when there's a shipping delay, businesses have shortages faster because they don't keep as much on hand to pad out any possible delays.
Yeah, it's like I'm guessing that like you know, so in traditional shipping, right? You know, we're talking right now. The container congestion because there's such a steady supply, then they'll get congested at the docks, at the quays, etc.
Yeah.
And then businesses that are relying on just in time will experience like frequent small fragmentations versus traditional shipping where things took fucking forever and to get even a full load across. So people would go through massive long periods of time in which they would be out of supply.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's like we just kind of have this like fragmented but fairly consistent.
Yeah. We just assume that it's always going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have faith in God and capitalism is in the
Which
Bible.
means that everything is very ripe for collapse.
Oh, yeah.
If there's any like long-term major interruption in fuel.
Yeah. Which could happen very soon.
Yeah. Lots of stuff's going to shut down. Probably going to run out of food pretty quickly.
Yep.
Although I guess not in Western countries. Because that podcast I was listening to on the way over here, the guy was talking about this Money on the Left is the name of the podcast.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, and this guy was talking about how in post-colonial Middle Eastern and African countries, they were trying to do food exports like prior to decolonization or independence, I guess, because it wasn't really decolonization.
Right.
These countries were like the breadbaskets of the respective European colonizers. And when they became independent, the European former colonizers, well, current colonizers, God.
Former and current.
They actually instituted a policy of not importing food. So most food production in Western countries is domestic.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like there's like a national security motivation
it's
behind
the whole
that.
thing, yeah. Good old autarky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so if you're like a longshoreman, then you can very easily shut down the economy by refusing to work.
Be a comrade.
And causing even longer shipping delays and fucking up all the inventories of every store everywhere.
Think about it, longshoreman. Just think about it.
Yeah. Give us a call if you're a longshoreman.
If you know pronounce anything in Danish.
Yeah, if you know any longshoremen, tell them to listen to this episode. And yeah. And wish them a dirk from us.
Yeah. You'll be rewarded handsomely in heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, and the final thing I have here is just the fact that there's like port service. There's like a port service industry because once these cargo ships are in port, they have to be refueled, provisioned with stuff for the crew when they're at sea, and they have to be moved around with tugboats because they can't move around themselves. They don't have trawling motors like real boats do.
Yeah.
All right. So
let's see. We got some other topics.
Yeah, so before it gets too weirdly, awkwardly late into here, and we're already at an hour, so
we are at an hour. That's nice.
Pretty close to that point by
mouths.
now. Let's go into the origins of Maersk. The first thing that we should have done, but didn't. But
first,
that's okay.
Before we do that, we're going to take a quick break.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
To piss and beer.
Okay. Yeah, so we're back now.
We are back.
Slightly more buzzed.
Yep. We rammed our heads against the wall.
Yeah.
Until we came up with better ideas.
Right. Exactly. So, the origins of Maersk, the Danish shipping company that dominates the world. The first part of its origins is P&O, which is a British company formed in 1837, operating shipping routes from England to Spain and Portugal. After the first Opium War, which was from 1839 to 1841, and if you don't know what that is, that's a series of conflicts between Britain and China over their policy of importing opium.
Yep.
So the British basically destroyed a bunch of ships until
Yeah.
China agreed to an unequal treaty where they would accept opium shipments from the British.
This was the
original crack epidemic.
I was just going to say, this was basically a very, like, a real drug war where they were like, look, we want to sell you the drugs.
Yeah.
And you're going to buy
This is the real peer pressure that they told you about in DARE class.
We will go to war with you to make you take opium. And then we'll profit off of it.
Hey, governor, smoke this opium, mate.
They'll make you sort of lie down for a while.
But I don't want to. Smoke the fucking opium, mate.
Oh, shoot, your city full of holes.
I think that's what the movie Ip Man is about. It's about the first opium war. I don't know.
I can't remember.
I just know that every time I watch that movie,
vintage.
I turn into a Chinese nationalist. I'm like, fuck these motherfucking British people. Kill them all. Hell yeah, Wing Chun rules. So during the after the Opium War, P&O started shipping hundreds of thousands of chests of opium to China. In 1840, it received a royal charter to do this, which is pretty cool. During the 20th century, fast forward just a little bit, it made numerous acquisitions. It started operating passenger ships, and in 2000, it divested this part of the business, the passenger part, to form P&O Princess Cruises, which you may have heard of, which would later merge with Carnival to form the largest cruise line in the world.
Princess Cruises, funded by the Opium War.
Yeah. And in 2005, P&O sold its shipping business to Maersk. So... yeah, I guess I didn't even say how Maersk itself started, but...
that was just a totally different thing.
Yeah, I didn't even write it down. That's very smart of me. Very smart.
Who's counting?
So I don't know exactly what year Maersk started, but it was started by two Danish motherfuckers.
Yep.
Both named Muller. A.P. Muller and Trent Muller.
Trent Muller?
No, that's actually like a deep house artist. But in 1996, Maersk became the largest shipping operator in the world with its acquisition of Eek Ben Container Line, which is a really weird name and spelling.
Honestly, I'm kind of glad that they acquired it so that it would go away.
Yeah, it's not a good name.
No, it's not good at all.
In 1999, Maersk acquired SAF, or Safe Marine, which got them 50 vessels with 80,000 TEU, which is basically the number of containers that the ship can hold at maximum.
Right.
So it could hold 80. They could hold 80,000 total containers.
Units.
Yes,
total, units.
Yeah, it's a 20-foot equivalent unit. That's what TEU stands for.
Oh, 20-foot equivalent. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, which makes sense for containers. Okay.
Yes, because they're 20 feet.
Right. I clearly read the notes.
Yeah, and Safe Marine was a South Africa-based company, so you know those guys are good. Formed in 1846, so you really know they're good. They're good dudes.
Extra good.
Solid
Very
dudes.
Good people.
The same year, it acquired Sealand, 70 vessels and 200,000 TEU, which was that American company that operated the very first container ship. So they got the first container ship company. How about that? That's pretty fucking wild. In 2003, the two holding companies. Oh my god, this is gonna be fucking hilarious for me.
Oh hell yeah! Let's see this. Let's hear it.
Damskibselskabet.
That sounds pretty Danish.
I think I got it actually.
Damskibselskabet.
Svendborg. Damskibselskabet Svendborg. A/S. And Damskibselskabet af. How are you say 1912 in Danish? 1912.
1912.
I think that's how you pronounce it. So those two companies, with their goofy-ass names, are merged to form A.P. Moller-Maersk, which is the Maersk current company, the main company.
Yep.
And that's the two Mullers that each started the respective halves of Maersk. One was Maersk Muller, and one is just Muller. Pretty great.
Cool. Barely not related.
In 2005, Maersk Sealand, which was the shipping part of the business, controlled 12% of the international shipping market, while P&O, the company we mentioned earlier, controlled 6%. So when Maersk Sealand acquired P&O, it changed the name of its shipping business to Maersk Line, controlling 18% of the market with 600,000 TEU and 13,000 employees. And that's just for the shipping market. They had employees in other sectors as well.
Right.
Highlighting the very real competitive dimension of capitalism, by the end of 2006, its global market share had already dropped 2% to 16%. So only 1 year later, some other companies had conquered parts of the shipping market and made Maersk lose some market share.
Man, it's rough only controlling 16% of the global shipping industry.
Yeah,
that's
fucking,
nothing.
What a hardship.
It's fucking rat shit.
And the last thing I have here is in 2015. This really isn't origin at all, but okay. In 2015, Maersk performed worse than expected, so it laid 4,000 employees off. It got 4,000 employees laid and laid off another 4,000 and canceled 35 voyages, promising to cut administrative costs by $350 million. And then in 2017, this one rolls. So if you don't know what ransomware is, first of all, it's basically where hackers will infiltrate your computer and lock it down in some way and threaten to like delete your files or like expose
generally because a middle manager
was
clicking on porn.
Yeah, reveal your porn history.
Right.
Like,
hey, buddy.
Tell everyone that you've been watching brother fucks mom and stepsister videos
at a goat farm
on
in latex.
on X Hamster.
What?
So
I would never do that.
So you gotta pay some money so that they don't do that. So in 2017, Maersk was taken in a ransomware attack for $250 million.
God damn.
That's a crazy amount.
What's funny is that's like roughly 2/3 of like the administrative costs they tried to save a couple years before. Like they got fucking scammed out of a fuck ton of money that they laid off 4,000 employees to save. What the fuck? Because somebody clicked on some fucking porn or something. You know? Like open a fucking attachment.
So that's kind of its origins. Not a great origin story because again, I did not do enough work on these notes, but I did more work than you guys did.
Less,
so
honestly,
hope you like it. And the last thing I'll say is they have an energy division, and according to its official LinkedIn page, including the standalone energy division, Maersk employs roughly 88,000 employees across operations in 130 countries.
That's half the fucking world.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more.
Probably all the important ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the important ones.
Right.
Wink, wink.
The non-landlocked ones, I'm guessing.
Right. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder, like, how many of the world's like 200 something countries, states are
on a
accessible
coast.
by water.
Yeah.
That's probably most of them right there. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Also, I looked it up. and the number of federal employees in the Washington D.C. area is roughly 200,000. So if Maersk wanted to out-administer the federal government in D.C., they might have a chance.
They're almost a third of the way there, or they're over a third of the way there.
They have enough employees to potentially contend with Congress.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, I'm thinking of starting the
fantasy league.
Maersk getting in contact with Maersk and starting the Maersk Lesotho division.
That would be amazing. Yes.
There may not be much water there,
right?
But they do have some transient ponds,
right?
And you can probably ship on those in June and July.
Exactly. I mean, what Maersk needs to do is start building trebuchets.
Yeah. Okay, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Or I was actually thinking about this when we were outside. What if I started a company, because you were talking about all this port congestion and how there's in some places there were ships sitting there for months.
Right.
What if instead of using cranes to unload the containers on those ships, you used helicopters? Then you wouldn't even have to go to a port.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm sure with the fracking boom still happening, right?
Yeah.
Probably pretty negligible cost. I'm sure you could run a helicopter off of natural gas or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or
I'm not an expert in aerospace. I only tried to be for my first couple years of college, but I'm not good at physics, so that didn't work out. Anyway,
that's all right, yeah.
Speaking of physics, how about the impact of Maersk?
I mean,
it's a pretty good physics joke, right? Ballistics and such.
Yeah.
Some of the environmental aspects from 2007 to 2014, and mainly due to slow steaming, which I'll explain in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Maersk Line reduced its CO2 emissions by 40%, or 11 million tons. About the same reduction as the rest of Denmark.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
their emission reductions were comparable to a sizable European country.
Yeah. Of course, now I'm curious.
And one of those Scandinavian countries that actually gives a fuck about reducing their emissions.
Right.
Which is, damn.
They may be the dirtiest, swampiest of the Scandinavians, but they still count as something.
So that means that their total emissions prior to that was 27.5 megatons and currently sits at 16.5 megatons. And so to explain slow steaming, that just means slowing the ships down. So it adds some time to the trip, but it also reduced fuel costs by a huge amount because the engine can run in a more efficient regime.
Right.
And that's actually, I was reading an article about the shipping congestion problem, and one of the ideas to deal with it is actually to have this wireless network for the port that would tell cargo ships when there would be an open berth, and if it's too far in the future, they can slow down their ships, which would actually further reduce their emissions.
Right.
And then they wouldn't have to sit there at anchor waiting for shit.
Yeah. Because that'll fuck things up pretty bad.
Yeah. So obviously Maersk has as the largest shipping operator in the world, it has a huge climate impact.
Yep.
It's probably one of those 100 corporations that all those reports are talking about.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I don't remember if I saw it on the list or not because I kind of skimmed the list, but I mean, basically it was at the top of the list were all these actual fossil fuel companies, because of course, but
right
after that was a bunch of I think shipping and other shit.
I mean, I'm sure that the number one or close to number one has to be just the U.S. military.
Most likely, yeah. Of course, these were companies as defined by liberal economics, and so it was separate from the government. It can't be a military, ha ha ha. But yeah, the military fucking destroys shit just by
because I guess China would probably be really high up there too.
Yeah. The
Chinese government.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So another impact. I guess it's not specific to Maersk, but it is specific to the modern competitive shipping industry that's been built up by companies like Maersk. Apparently there's an arms race of building ever larger container ships.
Oh, God.
So in 2012, the Maersk E-Class ships were the largest ships in the world, And they had nearly 15,000 TEU, the containers of cargo measure, 15,000 TEU of space. It was later replaced with the Triple E class starting in 2013, which could hold 18,000 containers. In 2014, the top spot for the largest cargo ship was taken by the CSCL Globe at 19,000 containers. And today, the top spots are held by the OOCL. I think it's Oriental Overseas Container
Line,
maybe? Labia? I don't know. Oh, container line. Okay, yeah, it's right there.
It's right there in the URL, son.
Well, I was close.
I know.
Yeah.
Ukul.
Yeah,
we'll call them Ukul.
Those Ukul ships hold over 21,000 containers of cargo.
Uh-huh.
Which,
God damn.
that's just fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah. Well, of course, let's be clear though. They hold over 21,000 containers of cargo capacity.
Right.
Yeah, up to that much cargo.
Yes.
But this is one of the issues in shipping.
Yeah.
Should I hammer on that for a second?
Sure.
All right. So one of the things that I read when I was looking at some of Maersk's like competitors and stuff, just like figure out the lay of the land. So the context is that South Korea has a massive stake in shipping as well. And this is one of the ways that they basically broke into the kind of quote-unquote developed world status in the 20th century.
Yeah.
Is that they build ships and they run a shipping industry, which is pretty large. So the Hanjin, I guess, company, which many of you may be aware of, it's basically the Maersk of Asia. And, you know, South Korea just like depends on this company. Anyway, so a couple years ago, Hanjin ran into some trouble, and basically, I don't remember exactly how it started, but they were suffering from what we call overcapacity in shipping.
Ruh-roh.
Because both traditional and container shipping have this issue where, like, your ship is, you know, it's an asset, but it can also be a liability, because if you're using it for profit, if you're relying on it for profit and running your business, and I guess even just relying on it for revenue, it's, you know, flat out, having this rigid physical unit which functions and produces revenue more or less by being full to the brim of goods which other people demand. Right. Your unit is you can't make it smaller or bigger, and so if you fill it too much, obviously it'll sink or it'll lose shit.
Yeah.
You know, over the side. Or if it's bigger than the load that you want to ship, then
I love shipping fat loads.
Yeah. You know, there's nothing like it. Not a better feeling in the world. But basically, if you're consistently shipping less than you can take, then you have too much capacity. They call that overcapacity, because you're basically running a deficit by doing anything. Right. But it's like in blackjack, where like you're like, oh, that particular round was not so great, my hand was not so great, but I'll just double down and I'll just keep going. I'll just keep gambling. Kind of like with all sorts of other financial problems, issues in like the stock market and other things. You're like, I'm just going to wait for it to get better, right? So they just kept waiting and trying, but their overcapacity led them into massive debt, and essentially there was, I don't remember if this was connected or not, but there was a month in, I think, 2015 where Hanjin did not receive a single order in the entire month, which is a fucking disaster.
That seems bad to me.
Yeah.
Is that bad?
Pretty fucking bad.
Okay.
When you have to be basically constantly shipping and preparing to ship, and
I guess if you're a shipping business, you want to do a lot of that stuff.
He wanted to be doing a lot of that. Yeah. So it's like the company itself was basically unemployed for a month. But because of the just in time kind of methods, then that's like all the money you want and need and have, you know.
But I bet they got really good at Fortnite.
right.
during that time.
Probably just sitting around like, oh fuck, Guess
Yeah, I heard some of the employees actually moved out of the industry into esports after that.
Zerg Rush.
Yeah.
So Hanjin was like, "Fuck, we gotta settle or something." They went into some kind of I forget if it was bankruptcy or something else, and I don't know how like South Korean laws work on this stuff because every state is a little bit different. But they went in and they're like, "Let's we think we're in the hole for about $5 billion US, right?"
It's like chapter 15 or 16. Damn.
That's just insanity, right? I mean, they're a major player.
But apparently, actually, it was like more like chapter 34.
Yeah, these guys, they went in for 5, and they got their lawyers and their accountants on it, and started working with the authorities. And after everybody had dug through all the accounts that existed for this company, it turned out that it was actually over $10 billion in debt.
Damn.
Which is like just god awful.
Yeah.
Like, and so
that's like 20,000 TEU of cash.
right. Like, oh, that's a lot, So they did not fare so well, and Maersk, I think, actually bought part of them off. But at the same time,
well, it wasn't in my origin section, so I don't think so.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're probably right. This is probably just apocryphal.
I did very good research for this episode.
Yeah, well, so did I.
Yeah,
real good.
Yeah,
real good, extra good. But at the same time as they were suffering, apparently all of the other, I think it was just like a blip in the world
and
trade radar.
You said this was because of like the port at Kuala Lumpur being like super backed up.
I actually don't know.
Okay.
If this is related or
Remind
not.
us where that is. Is that Malaysia?
Yeah, Kuala Lumpur is the capital of Malaysia. And I don't know if it was Kuala Lumpur or Singapore, but it was one of the Southeast Asian ports
know it
that
because
was
of a Weeble
severely
song.
backed up. Oh, God. Well, basically, yeah, there was like a huge period of congestion. And like congestion happens in, like as we said, like congestion happens in these kind of just in time.
Yeah, it's happening more and more, I think.
Yeah, because
there's just more and more shipping going on.
Exactly, the volume is so high.
Oh, and another thing I should have mentioned for the environmental impact is, this is just something I know off the top of my head, but global shipping is actually responsible for like 90% of marine extinction.
Oh, yeah.
You'd think it would be fishing, like overfishing, but it's actually because edible fish are like a limited subset of all ocean life.
Right.
So international shipping kills stuff like whales and shit like that.
Right. Well, because the whales keep trying to hug the ship and talk to it.
Right, yeah.
And then,
part of the problem with powered ships is their motors make a lot of noise. And one thing about the ocean is it transmits noise really well.
Yep.
And a lot of
really
animals in there need sound to see.
Yep.
Find their way. They hear like the ship noise.
For like
really
fucking miles around, yeah.
In fact, I think I saw a study that said like whales go into something the equivalent of shock.
Oh yeah, I heard about that, which is like awful.
When they get really close to these ships.
Which is it is unique to powered ships.
Yeah.
Like sailing ships are just like whales. They're basically quiet. They're a little confusing, obviously, to sea creatures, but they're not like and then you're like, I can't fucking find my way around the living room.
Right.
Yeah. Which is just tragic.
Okay, so what's next?
So basically, if you're a real vegan, you will boycott shipping.
Yeah. Go ahead and invest.
And I'm actually kind of serious about that.
Go ahead and invest in sail cargo.
Yeah, let's just sail again.
Yeah,
yachts for everybody. Yachts.
Yeah, I unironically believe that's the future. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're gonna have to produce shit locally. We're not gonna have as much shipping, but for the shipping we do need, let's use sail ships.
Yeah,
seems pretty cool to me. But anyway, so another impact. Maersk has multiple complaints about labor conditions in its work sites. So there were complaints at one of their sites in Dongqing. I think it's Dongqing.
It's Dongqing, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not talking about the pronunciation. I'm talking about... I didn't actually check back on the page I was reading about this, so I may have gotten the place completely wrong.
Could be anywhere.
Yeah. There might not even be a place called Dongqing, but that's what I wrote down. So after complaints about working conditions from the workers there, Maersk hired this company called Circia, which is a Danish work safety inspection agency, who investigated their site and said, actually, it's fine, and it's above average for China as a whole. So
classic
no
consultants.
problem. Yeah. So, of course, an agency that's being paid a lot of money to create a report for Maersk naturally won't want to be too harsh.
Right.
Because it's their customer. If they have to hire them again, they'll want to be rehired.
Exactly.
And that's, that makes them just kind of pitch softballs at them. So
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is an easy one. This is maybe something you want to fix, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And so between that and the national and ethnic ties between the two businesses and the separation from the workers in Dongqing who are Chinese, probably never met. Nobody at the Maersk headquarters has met a single one of these motherfuckers.
It's almost as if race war is class war.
Yeah. So, between these two, it's pretty easy to just like otherize the workers and, kind of ignore them. And so I think this shows that businesses like value the opinions and experience of other businesses far more than those of their own employees, because who knows the working conditions better than the workers themselves?
Right.
No one.
Yeah.
You can't just like walk in and be like,
200-year-old argument.
Yeah. You can't walk in and look at shit and be like, yes, I know what it's like to work here.
Right.
It's actually good.
Right. Get out of your Rolls Royce, walk around for 3 minutes, and go back.
Yeah. But really, as evidence shows, a business thousands of miles away that you pay to tell you actually it's not so bad. They know better.
Yeah. Clearly.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you paid him for.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I didn't realize that the thing that I said was
it's exactly
what your comment was.
Yeah. But
I didn't even read it.
Look, the fact that we both agree means it's got to be right.
Yeah. Okay. So last bits here.
Yeah, we're cleaning up real quick because we want to go to this wobbly thing later.
Yeah. So comparison to the other topics that we covered, the VOC and the Phoenicians. So the only thing that I really got to here was the military-industrial aspect of it.
Yeah.
There's not really a Maersk military branch. They don't have like a Academy or XC or Blackwater part.
Right. And they don't have to.
Yeah. So an example of it not having a military is in 2008, Somali pirates hijacked the Maersk Alabama. Kind of a funny name to name a Danish ship, Alabama.
I stopped when I read that. I was like, the what?
Maersk Alabama.
Maersk Alabama. They probably just called it Marama.
Yeah. So Somali pirates hijacked the ship and took the passengers and crews hostages. The incident was the subject of a movie I never had the slightest interest in seeing, which is Captain Phillips. You may have heard of that.
I haven't seen it either. I saw the trailer and I was like, I think I get
Tom
the
Hanks?
idea. Yeah, Tom Hanks.
Yeah, of course.
Captain Phillips.
I used to love Tom Hanks.
Well,
he used to be my favorite actor.
Things, yeah.
One year for Christmas, one of my relatives, they knew that I loved Tom Hanks. They got me like 5 Tom Hanks movies.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they got me like Forrest Gump, Catch Me If You Can. I think that's one of them.
Yep.
Which
he's Catching Leo.
Probably my favorite of the ones they gave me.
They should call it Catching Leo and make it into like a gay romance.
Yeah, and then like Castaway and some other one. I don't remember what the other one was, but yeah, that was a pretty good gift, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, at least it wasn't like all VHS copies of When Harry Met Sally or something, or like Splash.
Would have been a little young for that one,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So most people know the story of the hijacking because everyone's seen that movie.
So there's 2 boats.
Everyone.
Right? It starts with 2 boats.
Yeah. 2 boats enter.
Yeah.
2 boats leave, but only one of them has crew on it. And also there was another boat involved from the Navy.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So the hijacking ended with U.S. Navy walruses or dugongs or whatever they're called. They just sniped the pirates, which is kind of fucked up because the pirates did nothing wrong, honestly.
Yeah.
Pretty sure they didn't kill anyone. I don't remember them reading about them killing anyone.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, I'm sure that Tom Hanks would have disapproved of sniping. These,
Tom Hanks talked to a volleyball.
These aggressive sea merchants.
Who cares what that fucking idiot thinks?
Those pirates were probably just trying to sell them some Venezuelan oil.
Yeah.
In 1-liter bottles.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just noticed something that we did not mention with respect to what Maersk is now or the arms race between the sizes of the ships, but today, Maersk has 786 ships with 4.1 million TEU capacity.
Damn.
So if you recall, in what was it, 2006, they had like 200,000 or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah, 2005 they controlled 18% of 600,000 TEU in 2005.
Jesus Christ.
And so now they have 4.1 million.
Million?
So that's
what the fuck?
That's 7 times
Where did they
the capacity.
Or they just what?
And
it's almost terrifying.
I think it's mainly through mergers, but also through
they have been doing a lot of that.
Definitely through expansion with the ships, because they have they had those 2 new classes of ships after that.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Which were the world's biggest ships for a long time.
Yeah. So they're, as you might say, differentially accumulating.
Yes, indeed they are.
Through mergers and acquisitions.
That's not even close to where we were. Okay, is there anything else that we have? Here's your Hanjin thing.
Yeah, we touched on Hanjin. That was whatever the fuck that was. And then...
yeah, so no military because
Don't
they got
need 'em
hijacked
anymore.
by pirates, and the U.S. Navy had to take care of it.
Yep, because the U.S. is just the official world police.
Yeah.
As long as you're a business.
Right, exactly.
Especially if you're white.
Yeah. They're kind of like the Marines in One Piece, actually.
Yeah, right. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. If there were less
floating
land,
around fucking with people.
If there were less land, there would be very little Air Force, very little Army. It would just be the Marines and the Navy.
Yeah.
And they'd basically be like the Marines in One Piece.
Running around doing that shit.
Crazy.
Yeah. Terrible.
Yeah. So Danish people are damp.
That's our lesson. Yes.
Let's see. What conclusions can we draw from this, since we seem to be petering out already?
Yeah. Again, we're trying to get out of here soon, and
yeah,
it's been a long week.
We got a little bit of time. We got enough time.
A long week of doing almost nothing.
Yeah. So in terms of like how would we compare it to a VOC or a Phoenician?
I think
Tyrian purple shipper. Yeah,
that's a great question, and I think that if we look at those 2 sort of thalassocracies, if you will, each one represented its era pretty well.
Yeah.
Where like the Phoenicians, they represented their era or their kind of their zeitgeist pretty well as also embodying what it means to be a thalassocratic power.
Yeah.
Right. So that they're this kind of modular, somewhat far-flung network of workers and managers and CEOs and whatever the fuck else they have, and they rely on these very physical, kind of capacity-based, logistics-based channels of power and expressions of power, and their competition is sort of centered on that because that's their bread and butter. But at the same time, the zeitgeist was like, for the Phoenicians, it was a lot of like ethno-state stuff, and you couldn't go too much further than the Mediterranean in that case, but they basically dominated what that was. In any case, in any of these cases, everybody's limited by the technology they're using to achieve their goals, but then they're exploiting fucking everything they can get their hands on as they go.
One thing I wish we had found for the VOC episode was how they like what technologies they needed to manage a company at such a far distance.
Yeah.
Because the Phoenicians were in their own territory.
Right.
But the VOC were far away from their territory.
Yeah. They basically had to go continents away.
Thing to look into.
Yeah.
Because obviously today, the advent of radio and internet and even just postal services, which I think were an invention of the 18th and 19th centuries.
Basically. I mean, as we know them, like up until then, I think it was just like you just got somebody to agree to take a message for you, or you paid them to do it, or whatever.
Well, I was reading
who you
one
wanted
of
to receive it.
Graeber's book, The Utopia of Rules. Who, by the way, I'm still mad at David Graeber right now, but anyway, he pointed out that postal services a lot of the time were like a military innovation because they were used for military communications.
Because again, a war is won or lost on logistics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and speaking of logistics and class war, shipping and thalassocracy obviously are going to be a part of that. So, yeah. So let's see. Phoenicians VOC versus Maersk.
Yeah. I mean, Maersk. How many employees did we say the VOC had? It was like 35,000 at its peak.
I think so.
So
quite a few.
So Maersk has it beat, but
yeah,
in terms of the total world population, probably a smaller fraction.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
So in terms of workforce, but in terms of like how many countries they operate in,
exactly,
not even close.
Right. Maersk is absolutely fucking dominant.
I think I guess I wouldn't call Maersk a thalassocracy. Obviously, because it doesn't have its own military. It's not really directly part of the state.
Right.
The Danish aren't particularly powerful. They dominate in shipping.
Right.
But that's really all.
But that's the thing, right? This is what we've been talking about with the kind of coextensive relationship. I probably use that word too much, coextensive. But like, yeah, the kind of the bedfellows relationship of the state and business as we know it, capitalist business, is that like Maersk is, as a corporation, a kind of a free riding and sort of free trading, if you will, independent or semi-independent bureau of a state or a collection of states, right? That is used probably at times as like a middleman or a proxy, and at times as like a more or less a direct arm of, say, the Danish government.
Yeah,
to enrich itself.
But I also think, and kind of what I was getting at was, in a lot of modern political economy, the concept of a nation kind of breaks down a little bit because. I mean, there's no way that Maersk is operating primarily with the kroner.
Well, right,
Who the fuck uses that?
Right,
they operate in all these different countries.
Very thoroughly transnationalized.
Yeah, when a business operates in another country, it uses the local currency unless that country doesn't have a sovereign currency, and is like Venezuela uses the U.S. dollar.
Yep.
Where they could operate with the U.S. dollar.
Currency, exactly.
Yeah. So Maersk isn't really explicitly Danish. It's truly multinational.
Exactly.
And then the other aspect of it is that military aspect where the U.S. military is protecting global commerce. So in a sense, everyone, like all global businesses are part of the U.S. state.
Exactly.
Because the U.S. state is the one that's actually allowing them to become dominant at all.
Yep.
So without that, there's no way that Maersk would survive if it didn't have a military of its own, and the Danish military wasn't protecting it. There's no way that it could be controlling 16% of all shipments in the world.
Exactly. I mean, it's capitalism and like mafia style business and governance are basically the same. So if you have a capitalist state, then it will behave more or less as a mafia. And if it has an international reach, as the U.S. obviously does, then it will do its best to create informal but powerful relationships in which other productive parties and organizations are beholden to it, even if it's just like, even if the obligation only exists in the mind of the United States government, right?
Yeah.
But then it's able to enforce that because it can threaten, and that's very a mafia as well.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, well, I mean, we're here to protect you, and you're going to give us our protection money.
Right.
And it's very, very clear how that works. But we have this thing called economics, which befuddles people about what exactly is going on there. So
I think the last thing that I have is something that I already touched on earlier, which is that shipping networks used to be basically direct creations of the state. There wasn't any such thing as a freight forwarder. So
right, yeah.
One of the
senses,
distinctive characteristics of capitalist states is the kind of more open. Now, I wouldn't say open access because you still need capital, but the more open access to parts of industry, so you can kind of hook into a part of industry without being directly part of the state. You're an indirect part of the state as a corporation or small business or whatever.
Yeah.
But that and the fact that there's competition between different shipping companies.
Yep.
Which, the one thing that normal ass economists are right about is that competition fosters strong businesses.
Yeah.
Not for the reasons that they think.
Exactly right.
But it does do
not
that.
in a way that promotes human rights or like the dignity of man.
Yeah.
But just for
so
like
through the
power.
gauntlet of
Yeah.
companies trying to destroy each other, they end up becoming powerful.
Exactly.
And know how to best exert political influence with what the resources that they have at their disposal.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a fucking video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
No, I mean, like, I feel like we've covered everything that matters for this topic, and we're trying to get out of here too.
Yeah. So I guess in conclusion, shut down all the ports and
longshoremen unite,
and then also start helicopter, transshipment businesses.
Yeah.
Probably make a lot of money doing that.
That's right. Heli person unionizing.
Yeah,
would be cool.
And sell me stock.
Yeah, right. Beforehand.
All right. That was the show. If you enjoyed that, check out our other episodes at neighborscience.podbean.com.
Yep, and watch that sketch we post. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Follow us on Twitter at neighborscipod. I'm at Handle of Rye. Chris is at Solidarity Goth.
Yep.
We're on Instagram at neighborscience, facebook.com/neighborscience, and check out our Patreon, which I'll put a link for in the description.
Yep.
Okay, bye.
Bye.